Welcome to Building Your Best Brain podcast. If this is your first time here and you don't know me, my name's Sylvie. I'm a neuroscientist and yoga meditation teacher. And on my platforms, we talk a lot about, the science and the spirituality behind, having the healthiest, happiest brain you possibly can. In today's episode, I want to talk about something you've probably heard of before, which is the placebo effect. And so I want to take a bit of time defining what it is and how it's incredibly useful for you to know and you to tap into on your day-to-day. So, for those of you that might not know, I'm particularly, equipped. I contain a unique perspective with placebo effect because, of course, I am a neuroscientist. Like I mentioned before, I'm going into the 4th year of my PhD. But before I did my PhD, I worked in industry. So I was in a biotech company. We were doing clinical trials. And so I know placebo in a few different contexts. So a placebo, a very classic definition of it is a substance that has no therapeutic effect, which serves as a control. So when you're going through clinical trials, let's say you design a new and promising drug and you want to see if there's any therapeutic effect. You recruit participants. So these are people that, have an ailment, symptom in which your drug is supposed to help. And you put them into 2 groups. So one group will have the drug that you've developed, and the other group will have a substance that looks like it. So let's say, you're giving a pill, they'll have the same looking pill. They'll take it at the same rate, but there won't be any active ingredients. So it'll be like a sugar pill, for example. And there's a reason why they do this. There's a reason why the control group has a pill that looks like the drug but isn't the actual drug. This is because it has been shown in many different ways, and I'll drop some resources at the bottom of this podcast, that thinking that you're having something, so thinking you're having a drug that'll alleviate a symptom, will actually alleviate that symptom. It will have therapeutic effects. So when you're bringing a drug to market, they want to know basically if the therapeutic effects of this drug is more than the placebo group, because we are anticipating that the placebo group will have an impact by just thinking that they have the active drug that is supposed to help. So this is something we think about pragmatically in the scientific community, right? Like just kind of crunching numbers, figuring out if something is significantly different from each other. This is why it's so important to have controls. I just hear my supervisor's head, controls, have controls. But what does this mean for us that aren't in clinical trials, for us that are not doing experiments, that don't have to think controls? It means that your mind, your brain, can elicit physical differences based off of its perception, what it thinks is happening. So you can be taking a sugar pill that you think will alleviate your pain, and it will alleviate your pain. And one of the examples below that I'll touch on quickly is a study that looked at different creams for pain relief, so chronic pain, and they gave a cream in which they said had a strong therapeutic effect. People reported to feel better, but more importantly, they also put them in fMRI machines and did see, so fMRI, quick aside, MRI machines are big transmagnetic machines that look at brain structure. So in particular, looking at your gray or white matter. It's really good at getting a nice, what we call spatial resolution. So just resolution of the location. fMRI is a functional MRI, and it looks at brain activity, and it does that by looking at different blood flow, basically, different oxygen levels. And so you can apply something and then put somebody in a brain scanner and scan them and look at the difference in their brain activity. And they did see, through this brain scan, they found that their prefrontal cortex was active. And so this is where our executive functioning comes in, where we're, filtering different information to our brain. We're filtering different cues from our external world and feeding it to our brain. And what they saw was this increased activity matched another increase in the periductal gray area. And so this is a region that's really deep in our brain that is known for a few things. It is known to manage pain, and it's also known for producing endogenous opioids, which are our body's internal pain relievers. And so this was, again, given to a group that was given a lotion saying that it manages their pain, even though the lotion didn't have any active ingredients. And this shows a really interesting gateway into the brain-body response. And it shows how having a belief, having a strong belief in something, even if in our physical world it might not be true, can directly impact our body. And so I've been hearing the word placebo for many, many years as a scientist and didn't think two ways about it. And it wasn't until I started getting into my meditation practice and diving more into my spiritual practice that I started really piecing them together, and I started seeing how they changed in my life. Where this might get misinterpreted, right? Bringing placebo effect to your day-to-day life is people say, well, I know this already. It's fake it till you make it. Yes and no. The biggest difference that I have to share is that you have to believe it. So with the fake it till you make it crowd, there is this element of, repeating an affirmation that you desire, right? So let's say I'm successful, or I'm rich, or whatever. And they repeat it over and over again. I've done this too. You put the Post-it note on your wall, reminders on your phone. But if your brain repeating it over and over again isn't going to make you believe it more. Unfortunately, there is an element where some people, it might work for some people, but for me, it didn't help me believe it more. It just continued to remind me that I didn't believe it, which didn't help me. It didn't help me elicit the things that I wanted. So how do we get more placebo in our life? How do we buy into the fact that our beliefs change our bodies? Our beliefs change our physical world. They just do. Our brain is that powerful. And I'll dig into the science why briefly, and then I'll leave you guys with one practical tool that has helped me bridge the gap between understanding placebo effect and having it in my life. So the practice that has helped me do this is based off of what I know and what I've learned about the brain. So one thing about the placebo effect, right, or having a belief, is that it redirects our attention. So if I'm, for example, given a cream that helps alleviate my pain, and I believe that I'm getting a cream that is designed to do this, I'm going to start paying attention to the cues my body's giving me that I'm having some relief. And so you can see how my focus has changed. My focus is not on where I'm feeling the pain, how painful is it, when is it flaring up, but I'm focusing on the moments where it's not. I'm focusing on the moments where I have relief, and I go, oh my God, I have relief. This is working. And I continue to focus on that train of thought until it becomes my new normal. And at the level of your brain, you're stimulating a group of cells that notice this. And the more we stimulate those cells, the the way the brain wires itself can be and usually is very activity based, right? So your brain is super energy efficient, and when a circuit is activated, if it's being activated repeatedly, the brain wants to find a way to make that more efficient. And it'll do that in many different ways. And this is where synaptic plasticity comes in, right? So synapses are little spaces where neurons are close to each other, and they'll release neurotransmitters to communicate to each other. And so the brain will do many different cellular things, right? So changing these connections, maybe making more of them, maybe making less of them, maybe making more neurotransmitters, making more proteins that'll catch these neurotransmitters, all that kind of stuff. The more you stimulate those set of cells, the brain will adapt and change, this is where the plastic part is, to make it more efficient to fire, meaning that you don't need as much stimulation for it to activate. And so all of a sudden, through this change in attention and stimulating these new sets of cells, you create a more efficient circuit. And this is a physical, biological change. And of course, these circuits, depending on what their function is, communicate through your entire body, right? So you have something that happens in your brain, an activity, and you have all of your nervous system is your brain and your spinal cord. So you have nerves that'll go out into your tissues and send signals, and then it cascades, it continues. So an area I want to apply the placebo effect in my life is my finances. So feeling financially abundant, feeling financially secure, feeling taken care of when it comes to my finances. Now I can say I'm rich till the cows come home, and I won't believe it, and nothing is going to change on the physical level. But the practice is starting to direct my attention to where I feel financially secure and abundant, and I track them. And so I have a journal and I write down every day or every other day moments where I had this physically happen in my life, and they can be really small moments. And so an example can be when I go out to coffee with a friend, they pay for my coffee without me asking. This is money that I didn't have to use. This is money coming at me freely. This is me being financially abundant and secure. Another example is when there's an online promo and free shipping is included. Another example is when, I find a toonie in my jeans that I didn't expect to be there. I guess, not everybody knows what a toonie is. A toonie is a $2 coin in Canada. But it can be even smaller, and that shifts my attention. I start looking in my environment to see where I am financially secure and abundant. And these are the circuits that start forming and firing and stimulating and wiring. And that's where the magic starts to happen. And I'll share with you that it's working. For this particular thing, I haven't worked on it for too long, like maybe a month or so. And in 1 week, I had a boost in my stipend. A stipend is basically your salary as a PhD student. I had a boost in my stipend. I won funding. I got a juicy corporate yoga gig. I got offered to give a workshop to a national-wide science funding agency, like all in a couple of days. And these are things that, often we think with finances and even with our health that we have to be really calculated and we have to have it all figured out. But there's so much in life that we have no idea is coming our way. And so the possibilities are endless, but the possibilities are endless if we believe it. So I want to know where you want placebo in your life. I want to offer you more targeted tools to help you activate this placebo effect. So reach out to me, either commenting through this podcast or reaching out on my other social channels, sending me a message. Where do you want placebo in your life? And I'll start making tools to help you achieve it. So thank you for your time. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day and continue to follow along for more tips on how to build your best brain.